Hi, it's Jeremy, and boy, do we have some catching up to do. Hey, welcome back to VoiceOver Startup. I know it has been eons since we've gotten together. I've just been really busy, which is a good thing, right? But I wanted to talk about something that I think is really important. As I, my cat Carl, hi Carl. Carl is going to try and get the fish while I'm not paying attention. So you guys tell me if he gets his paws in the fish bowl. I've been getting busier and busier with my podcast, which is great. I've done a couple videos on podcasting, and if you haven't checked out my Classic Guitar Rock podcast, I'll leave a link. I want you to check that out. That's becoming more and more of a focus as I'm still doing voiceover stuff, but podcasting has really kind of taken off for me, which is a great thing. So check out the Classic Guitar Rock podcast. But I got the idea for this video based on an exchange I had earlier today on Twitter. Actually, I had some folks that had started following me on Twitter. By the way, if you'd like to follow the Classic Guitar Rock podcast on Twitter, by all means do so at Classic Guitar R1. At Classic Guitar R1. You can check that out. We're up to 15,000 followers, which is awesome. Well, I had this little exchange with some folks that have just started a podcast, and they were asking me about monetizing the podcast. Hey, I'm interrupting myself to say something. Stay tuned till the end because I'm going to share a website with you that can really help you start making money with sponsors right away. And they asked me how my monetization was going, and I think what that meant was, you know, am I making money on the platform that I'm on? Now I'm on Anchor. Anchor is kind of, I don't want to say it's controversial. Anchor is a platform that a lot of hardcore podcasters do not recommend. A lot of folks really like Anchor. I personally like Anchor, but it's all I've ever used. But I see the contention, and I see why some people do not like Anchor. That's a topic for another podcast. But the point is, they were asking me how the monetization was going, and I said pretty good, but it got me thinking. Actually, the monetization on Anchor isn't going that great. In fact, the entire time, so I started at the end of November of 2020 was when I launched my first episode of the podcast. In that entire time, I've made like $250 from Anchor. So do the math, right? It's been what? Almost 2 years, well, a year and a half, and I've made $250. That's not very good, right? However, I've made a lot more from the podcast than 250 bucks, just not through monetizing on Anchor. And that's what I wanted to talk about. Guys, if you're a podcaster just starting out and you think that you will never make any money, fear not. You can make money. You just can't make much money monetizing through whatever platform you're using because they literally pay you pennies, fractions of pennies for every download you get. So it just takes forever until you actually can make some money if that's the only way you're thinking you will make money. There are so many other ways to make money. One of them is Patreon, getting sponsors. I've got a few sponsors on Patreon, and to be honest, that's one of the things I'm really focusing on now. But what has been the most successful way to make money on my podcast is direct sponsorships. And that's just what it sounds like. You just go out and find a sponsor for your podcast. There's so many things that tie into this that I'm already thinking these are other episodes or other things to talk about. But the key is you have to have an audience. You have to have people listening. Okay, you have to have a regular audience, a repeat audience, people that come back. However, it does not have to be a huge audience. You do not have to have 50,000 regular listeners for you to start making money. And here was my first sponsorship. Let me tell you how it worked. Okay, I'm based in Spokane, Washington. The vast majority of my audience is not in Spokane, Washington, right? It's around the world, mostly in the US, but I've actually got quite a few listeners, in various countries. I reached out to a friend of mine who's a dentist. And I said, hey, Brad, because his name is Brad. I said, hey, Brad, would you like to be a sponsor on the podcast? He said, sure, which kind of surprised me. And to be honest, he did it because he was my friend. But the fact is, I asked for a direct sponsor and I got it. And so I gave him a killer deal, right? He got a great deal. I said, hey, for $100, I will run 10 commercials for you. Okay. And I actually produced a little commercial, a fun little commercial. He loved the commercial. He played it for everyone in his office. They thought it was great. Now, realistically, did that generate him any business? Since he's a dentist in Spokane, Washington, and there's probably not many people, probably not, right? But the fact is, he liked it so much that he renewed and he bought another sponsorship. Again, maybe he just did it because I was a friend. Probably so. But the point is, you would be surprised at folks would say yes if you asked them to be a sponsor. So you know what? That kind of emboldened me. And I thought, well, I just need to reach out to people that would want to reach my audience, right? What's my audience? And this is key. And this is a whole nother topic that we'll cover in another video. What is your target audience? If you have a podcast that just talks about everything or nothing, that's a tough row to hoe. Okay? You need to know exactly who your audience is. For me, it's easy. I have a classic rock podcast. My target audience is other old guys like me that like classic rock. 90% of my demographic, 90% of my listeners are male. And they're between 45 and 60 years old. That's a very attractive market to a lot of advertisers. So you know what I did then? I reached directly to companies that target guys that like classic rock or guitars in that age range. And there's lots of them. So other podcasts that talk about sports, for example. Or one of my big sponsors was a company that makes little guitar pedals, right? Effects pedals for guitarists. We're the perfect vehicle for someone like that. And here's what's so attractive about a podcast. They're what you call evergreen, meaning if I stick a commercial in a podcast today, people are going to be hearing it 5 years from now, right? They can still pull up old episodes of my podcast and they will hear this commercial. So this guy might have paid me only $30 for a commercial that is going to get played in perpetuity. So 5 years from now, people will still hear this commercial. That is a great value for advertisers. If they were to advertise via the platform, if they went straight to Anchor and advertise, well, that's only going to play for 30 days or whatever the length of the contract is. If they have a commercial actually embedded in the podcast that they paid to sponsor, that's going to be played forever and ever and ever. So it's a no-brainer for an advertiser, especially if it's a successful podcast. Now, I have about 50,000. I'm not a huge podcast by any means, but I'm ranked in like the top 2% worldwide of podcasts, right? And it's only getting bigger. So folks that are smart realize, okay, well, I can have him do a live read for $30 today, and 5 years from now, it might cost me $500 to do that if the podcast is truly successful. So from the advertiser's angle, that's one of the appealing things. So the point I'm trying to make is don't wait, or don't think you have to wait to monetize on your platform. Monetize on the platform for sure. I mean, you'll make a little bit, right? And the more listens you have, the more you'll make. But that's not the only way to make money. Reach out to people that think in your mind, what types of companies would want to reach my audience? And if you don't know what your audience is, that's a problem. Okay. That's why you need to have a niche. Focus on who it is that is listening, or who you want to listen, and focus on that. And then think of the companies that would want to advertise to that audience, and then reach out to those companies. Send them an email. Hey, my name's Jeremy. I'm host of the Classic Guitar Rock podcast. We have an audience that is 90% male, interested in classic rock, 45 to 60 years old, that has disposable income. Bang. All of a sudden they're thinking, ooh, okay, this is cheap because I give them a good deal, right? And so I have gotten very positive response from folks that will say, yeah, let's try it. Let's try this. Let's run three mentions over your next 3 episodes, and I'll give you $30 a mention. I just made $90. You know how much it would take to make $90 if I was just using Anchor? About a year. Okay. So don't wait for that. Reach out to those folks. Come up with a good, compelling pitch that you can make to people why they would want to use you. Okay. And then last thing, here's a little secret. A great website that I've had good luck with. Podcorn. 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 Podcorn.com. What Podcorn does doesn't cost you anything. Well, it costs you that they keep a percentage of what you make, but it's a low percentage, right? Podcorn pairs sponsors with podcasters. So you can actually go to their website, sign up for Podcorn. You see, here are the folks that want to advertise on a podcast. I read through and I think, is my audience a good fit for this? And if so, right in that app, you can send them a proposal. And I have gotten several sponsorships through Podcorn, and it's really slick. You get paid, they keep out their percentage, and then it goes right into your PayPal or however you set it up, right? It's a great way to do it. And you'll make way more money using something like Podcorn than just monetizing through whatever platform you're using, okay? So we'll talk more about this. But if you are a podcaster just starting out, don't think the only way you can make money is rely on CPM from the platform that you're on. Go out, find your own sponsors, and you can be making money right away with your podcast. Good luck. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next episode of Voiceover Startup. Thanks. Bye-bye.